I'm so excited to be here today and welcome Eva Clark in our community to host this 4-week workshop. For those of you who are not familiar with us or me, my name is Agatha Narod and I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2019. And I said no to medication at that time because I wanted to start my family or start a family, become pregnant, and just learn more about multiple sclerosis. So 7 years later, I'm still medication free. And 3 years ago, we published a book called Beating Multiple Sclerosis. This is how my purpose and my journey started. And last year, we started this community called Beating Multiple Sclerosis. I will share the link in the comment section for those of you
You
who are
just
not
show me
part
about
of
the
it
mute
yet.
thing.
Today I would like to introduce you, and I am pretty sure everybody knows Eva Clark here, and I'm very excited to learn about German new medicine because this is one area that to be honest, I felt like I don't really know anything about it. So welcome, Eva.
Thank you. Thank you. We will just give it 1 minute more. I keep accepting little people, but let's give it a minute and we will start. Or we'll just start with my background. That always is a great way. So I do see some familiar faces and I do see many faces that I don't know. So yes, my name is Eva Clark. I'm a clinical medical hypnotherapist, and I also do NLP. For anyone who's heard of that, it's really about working with the mind and the subconscious. And for over a decade now, I have specialized in working with multiple sclerosis. So as hypnotherapists, we've often been trained to use visualizations to help relieve symptoms. And probably several of you have been using that, for visualizations and things, and they can be helpful, but hypnosis can do so much more. It can really take you somewhere so much deeper. In a space of like trance, you can actually explore what might be underneath your symptoms. So, in the early years of my work, I loved communicating directly with disease or with specific symptoms. And in that kind of light trance, I would ask my clients, I'd ask their foot, how do you serve? How does this drop foot serve? When did it come in? Right? I would ask the foot, what are you doing for my client? And what did that foot want my client to do more of or to do less of? And this always took us much further than symptom relief. And it really helped us understand what the body was needing from the client, what the symptom was responding to or reacting to, and what the purpose might be of that symptom. And actually, as I was doing this, so this is, as I said, over decades, like 13 or 14 years now, I started noticing patterns. People diagnosed with MS often shared certain emotions or certain psychological or behavioral patterns. Then, for example, if I ever worked, occasion with someone with arthritis, it was like totally different, even though they're both autoimmune. And if I worked with someone who had issues with lower back, it was a different flavor of problems than someone with upper back issues. And so again and again, I saw that people with the same symptom seemed to have inner experiences that were also in common. Now, I haven't seen many people do this, but there are books, right? I mean, has any of you used Can You Hear Your Life by Louise Hayes when you first started having symptoms, right? Or there's also another one called Your Body Speaks Your Mind by Deb Shapiro, or Gabor Mate's book, right? When the Body Says No, there's a whole chapter on MS, exactly. Even her name is Viana Stibble with Theta Healing. She also has work and, patterns that are in common with MS. Many of these resources are helpful and insightful to kind of get an inkling of what's happening in symptoms. Have any of you researched these kind of books? If you could maybe put it on the chat, if any of you have used any of these kind of trying to get some information of why do I have these symptoms? Maybe you can answer yes, no, or tons of times, or didn't even occur to me. Yes, Gabor. Yep, Gabor Mate, great one. I actually went to a class with him and I was like, I need to pick your brain, when I first started doing this work. Yes, Gabor, yep, Louise Hayes, Joe Dispenza. Yep, yep, exactly. Yep, piano stable. Yes, exactly. Theta healing. I plowed through all those books. I really, when I first started, I was like, what does anybody else discover? And even though these books, Louise Hayes did a lot, right? It's really been really supportive. A lot of people find me because I wrote an article on that, actually, as a way to be found. I interviewed someone who had actually done a training with Louise Hayes. So a lot of these books can give us clues, but they don't quite give us truly like a very clear way to read your symptoms. And learning to read your symptoms are the goal that we have for the next 4 weeks. Okay. So around 4 years ago, I discovered German New Medicine, which is only now beginning to get some attention here in the United States. German New Medicine, or GNM for short, is for me, it's like once you guys start getting into it, it's like a cheat sheet to read your symptoms. Why it came in at that point in your life, why it affected that limb or that organ, and most importantly, what needs to change or be resolved in order to heal. The caveat is that German New Medicine isn't like one of those books that you just read it and you read the paragraph, you're like, okay, done, right? It is very detailed, it is very meticulous, and it is very different from the way most of us have been taught to understand disease. And that's the part that takes more time. It flips everything over. But once you start looking at this, it's going to make more and more sense because it's not based on, trust me, I know what I'm talking about. It's based on, look at this and experiment on yourself and notice it. All right. So it does take a little effort, which is why we have this time. And, I could do a lot longer. But I really wanted to give you guys just the ability to read, right? The ability to really get into this material in these 4 weeks. I believe the effort is well worth it, and I am glad all of you guys are here. So, because the framework, so a little warning sign here, a warning label, because the framework is so different, some of you here may leave today just wanting to go back to the explanations regarding diseases you already know. This is too much. I don't want, no, this is too much. I understand that completely because that is exactly what I did when I first encountered German New Medicine. And I want to invite you to not make the same mistake I made. 10 years ago, someone actually mentioned to me German New Medicine. And so I bought a book on it and I just put it on the shelf. That was it. And then a couple years later, someone emailed me diagnosed with MS, and he's like, Eva, I've been watching your videos, and this is so aligned with what you do. German New Medicine is the bomb. You have got to look at this. This is so going to support your work. And so I took out that book, I opened it, and I was like, oh, this totally changes a lot of things. It flips stuff over. And so I just kind of closed the book and I put it back on the shelf. And it wasn't until 4 years ago when I had a new client who had mast cell syndrome. Has anyone here heard of mast cell syndrome? Some yes, some no. It's actually when your body overreacts to almost like even water. It's almost like you can have a prophylactic shock to most any kind of food. So they are extremely limited and their bodies are constantly overreacting, having very dramatic allergic reactions. Well, when this woman came to my office, because I do a lot with allergies, I was like, okay, let's see what happens, because she's, I'm like, okay, let's see how we do this. She came waltzing in going, okay, this is what I have. This is why I got it. These are the beliefs that keep re-triggering it. And this is what I need to work on so I can stop re-triggering. And I was floored. I'm not used to that, right? I'm not used to a client coming in and going, okay, I know what it is. She's not afraid of it, right? She was like, this and this sets me off, and this is ridiculous. This keeps setting me off, but it's in my subconscious, and I need to figure it out. Can you help me? And I was like, yes. Oh my gosh, you just gave us the roadmap. That's what I want you guys to have by the end of these 4 weeks. That you have, this is what's setting off my symptoms. This is what I need to work on. Okay? That's our roadmap. So, in these next 4 weeks, really stay curious. Know that, we'll have these recorded so you can come back. It does take a bit of munching on, but as you even practice it in your day to day, this is not just around MS. This is going to help you with why did I get a cold this weekend, right after, coming back from that, vacation, or why does my cat keep scratching, right? This modality is going to answer or help guide you in your day-to-day symptoms. Why did I sneeze, right? My fiance is like sneeze. I was like, you didn't like that, did you? It's like you will be able to read any symptom. All right. So just to give you guys a little roadmap of what we're going to do today. Oh, today for the next 4 weeks. Okay. Today, we're going to really understand the basic map of German New Medicine, and we're actually going to do a little reading, but with symptoms such as stomach acid or back pain or any skin issues like eczema. Okay, that's what we're going to do today, just to get our feet wet. To next week, we're going to focus on symptoms of MS and do similar to what we did today, but with those symptoms and really get more in detail of the things you learned today. Then week 3, we're going to look at why do symptoms come back, right? Why do they progress? And then week 4, what healing looks like once you know how to read your symptoms, right? And we'll come back to this woman with mast cell syndrome, and we'll really look at, okay, so I have this, now what? All right. Any questions before we begin today? Really that outline or some keynotes regarding German New Medicine.
Feel free to type anything in the chat. Thank you, Ava. I'm very excited. I don't have any questions right now, but I'm sure a lot will pop up.
Yes, probably. Yeah, just making sure. All right, so to begin, I wanted to give you a short lesson on German New Medicine. Firstly, just a little, another warning sign. If you type in German New Medicine or the originator of German New Medicine on Wikipedia, or if you type in NLP and the originator of NLP, Bandler, for example, on Wikipedia, it's not positive. It's going to be like, oh my God, it's a pseudoscience and it's not da 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 da, and it's just awful and people shouldn't be following it. I am writing to them to see what I have to do to be able to actually put good research on there. But meanwhile, I wanted to give you guys a balance of what's out there. So let me get my little drawing because sometimes it helps to have a little visual. Okay, okay, there it is. So, okay, you guys have to move. All right. Who is Dr. Reichgerd Hammer? German medicine was discovered by a doctor. He was actually had a double major. He he worked in oncology. Actually, by the time he was 40 years old, he had developed, there you have it here, a Hammer scalpel, a scalpel for surgery, reconstructive surgery, that was 20 times sharper than a razor. He had developed a bone saw also for plastic surgery. Remember, this guy's an oncologist. So when he saw a need, he then created the device for that need. He also developed a massage table that contours to the body for those that are too uncomfortable with the hard table, and even a device to test for jaundice in newborns without needing to poke them, right? Because it's already very traumatic.
Eva, I'm
Yes.
sorry, can you just click on the use slideshow so it becomes a little bit bigger and everybody can see? On the top, I see it says use slideshow. Somebody can put it in the notes that they're having hard time seeing. Just
Okay.
make it a little bit bigger. I don't know if it's
I don't
possible.
know. Can you do the sharing? Because I think it's gonna make it's only showing me really. Are you guys seeing like all the next slides? Is that what's going on?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know why my computer does that. Can you do the sharing?
Um,
I'll close it.
sure. Let me
Oh
see.
no, yours was actually not working very well, was it? Actually, I'm going to share for everybody the PowerPoint, and then Agatha can
Yes, I can post the
open it.
PowerPoint in the
Yeah,
community and
because yeah,
people
I'll
can
post it
download
because
it
remember
also.
it did a really weird thing this morning, of course.
Mhm.
So let me just put it on the messages,
And for
and if you
those, you
can
can
open
click
it.
on the top corner and you can change it to gallery view just to see Eva, and hopefully the presentation will be bigger instead of
Yeah,
yeah, the speaker view.
perfect. And Agatha, if you can open that the PDF right there, that might make it easier. I don't know. I have two screens, so Zoom does really weird, funky things. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, let me see if it opens. Okay, 1 second. Technology, right? Okay, here we are. Can everyone see this?
And then make that big. Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. And so just the next slide, just so we can meet Mr., Dr. Hammer.
Okay.
Perfect. So what I was saying was, just to give you guys some background, is by the time he's 40 years old, this man has created 4 patents for all sorts of medical devices. So by this time, he had the financial means to dedicate his time to whatever he wanted to do at the ripe old age of 40, right? His wife, which was also a physician, and him had a dream to move to Italy, to go to Naples, and to work with the poor in the slums of the city. But life had other plans for him. So they had already just moved to Italy. They moved with their entire family. And he developed this new disease, this new medicine framework after a devastating tragedy in 1978, not long after moving here. His son, 19-year-old son, Dirk, was shot by a stray bullet while he was sleeping on a boat after attending a late summer party on an island off Italy with his sister. He was there to chaperone his sister, and he gets shot. After 3 or almost 4 intense months, so you have to think about this, his parents are physicians. And for 3, almost 4 months, he is fighting for his life. They had to amputate his leg. They had to give him so many transfusions. And in December, he died. A few months after this ordeal, Dr. Hummer is diagnosed with testicle cancer, and his wife later develops ovarian cancer. You have to think about this. Dr. Hummer was a very healthy and financially well-off 43-year-old, fully 43-year-old, living his dream life. He was not what you think of as stressed, right? Until those months. And so he was sure that his body had not randomly broken down or randomly, created these cancer cells, but it had to be the result of the ordeal his family just had to go through. As he was an oncologist, he had very easy access to cancer patients. So he soon began to interview other patients with testicular cancer. And now testicular cancer is a very rare cancer. But he was able to get a big enough group and to ask them, did something tragic occur to you before you got diagnosed? And in every one of the cases, they said yes. And not only did they say yes, in every one of the cases of testicular cancer, like he had, they had all experienced a profound loss. Either someone very close had died or someone had gone away permanently. And he found later with his wife that men would get testicular cancer and women would get ovarian cancer when they had this kind of shock. Now, the correlation between stress, trauma, and disease isn't new. Mind-body medicine, studies this. Psychoneuroimmunology studies this. Psychosomatic medicine studies this. They've all been studying that relationship about a decade before Dr. Hammer came in and saw this. What is different or what is new is that he not only found that there was a relationship between the psyche, the body, and a stressor. What was new is that he was so meticulous. He interviewed thousands of cancer patients, and he found very specific kinds of conflicts, kinds of shocks, produced very particular cancers in particular organs, in particular tissues, and particular body locations. He mapped out disease and mapped out the exact conflict shock, the theme of that disease, what is causing it. What more is he also found a correlation with specific brain areas related to that stressor, that tissue, and that location of the body. So though conventional medicine has a generalized map of the brain, he was actually able to pinpoint each area in the brain. If you guys want to learn more about that brain area, because, especially with MS, we have the lesions to deal with. If you want to actually understand your lesions, I did a webinar last month on it. It's posted on YouTube, kind of a shorter version. And if you want the entire version with all the conversation, it's on the healingmscircle.co page. Here, though, we're going to really focus on just being able to read symptoms in the body, okay? So a conflict, what he called these conflict shocks, all right? So a conflict shock regarding a loss that is permanent caused testicular or ovarian cancer. A starvation conflict, feeling you're going to starve, if you lose your job, how am I going to feed my family, will cause a liver cancer. A stink conflict, oh my God, like for example, you guys might probably remember in school or university when your teacher put an exam the day before the holidays and it was like, oh my God, are you serious? How am I going to focus the last week, before the holidays? You might notice that when you finish that exam, that what he refers to as stink conflict actually then creates a cold or the flu right after you take that exam. You're like, oh, done with that. Boom. Then you're like, oh my gosh, I was supposed to go on vacation, but now I have the flu. You know, any questions regarding the concept of a symptom begins with a shock, with this kind of, acute distressor.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
So if we identify what we feel is the major event prior to diagnosis, then what do we do? I'm sure you'll get to that.
Yes, in week 4, you need to resolve it. You
Okay.
need to resolve it and make sure it's not coming back. Right? It's like if I have a client with Parkinson and his major conflict began with with a boss from hell.
Mm.
What would you tell him? Breathe. Just breathe. No, in his case, we have to change his job. Right? But is it worth changing his job, maybe making a little less money, or having Parkinson? Right? So yes, once you understand the theme, you have to check in daily. How does this theme keeps showing up? How does he keep attracting narcissists and bullies in his life? How does he keep justifying them? Because he does. And then we need to look at what happened originally and make sure, is that conflict dead as a doornail, right? Is that conflict over? Is it anywhere in your life? That's what needs to be resolved. So I always say this work here is, and we'll really get into it, it's not about positive affirmations or
Okay.
it's about what got me here and what do I need to do to change this so it doesn't happen again. All right. So, what he found, not only did he find that there was a specific conflict to a specific disease, is he actually found that it was very logical. There was a biological, a natural reason for each of the physical symptoms. We're used to blaming stress for disease, right? Oh, I pushed too much, or I didn't eat well, or I was stressed, or my boss, right? With this rationale that the body gets exhausted, causing it to break down, causing it to get dysregulated, causing it to get intoxicated or malnourished, etc. What Dr. Hammer proposed is very different than that. He calls these physical changes, any symptom, he calls physical changes in the body that occur after one of these shocks a special biological program or an adaptation. What do we understand? What is an adaptation? When something adapts to something, what does that mean?
Trying to find another way of handling something.
Yeah, it's like what I'm doing doesn't work, so I need to adapt. I need to find another solution. So what Dr. Hammer is saying, coping. Yes, it's adapting, it's coping, but it's like, okay, in order to cope, what do I need to do? Right? Too much noise in my house. In order to cope, I need to put earplugs. Right? That's an adaptation. I make a change in order to cope better, in order to deal with the situation. So another idea, he calls them laws that Dr. Hammer detected or discovered was that our bodies are adapting to help us overcome a situation or a danger. And they are not breaking down due to stress. And that is a huge, huge difference. And you can take off the Dr. Hammer thing for now. That way we can see each other a little better. So the second concept is the body doesn't break down when we have unexpected stressors, even though often my clients will have like a year from hell before their symptoms. It's that thing that occurs that catches you off guard and you're already, up to here, you're already topped. So it's easier for something to catch you off guard. This is the thing that starts it. Okay. And what the body is doing isn't breaking down. What it's doing is adapting so that you can get to the other side of it, so that you can survive the situation. Sometimes it's like life or death survival. Sometimes it's just avoiding shame survival, right? For the body, it's the same thing. Now, again, adaptation is not a novel concept either, though it was pretty novel when he introduced it, which is why his university pushed back so hard. If he was alive today, it would have been easier because while he was doing this work, well, think about this, Darwin, right? Darwin and science from, 50, 100 years ago was already talking about generational adaptation, right? How a giraffe gets a longer and longer neck, right, as the needs to eat taller and taller leaves. There was a great article last year that the elephants in Africa, more and more of them are being born without tusks. How is that a smart adaptation? Any ideas? What are the problem with tusks in elephants in Africa? Poaching. So if I don't have a tusk, I can survive. So they're not being killed. Exactly. See, in nature, we know this. We're like, oh my God, smart. And we understood this as generational. But actually not even at the same time, 10 years after Dr. Hammer started talking about the body isn't breaking down, it's adapting, is when epigenetics came in and Bruce Lipton's work with cells. He wrote the book Biology of Belief. Has anyone read that book? That one's amazing too. Yes, I am saying that your body, the symptoms of MS, is an adaptation for you to deal with what was going on where you were. Yes, exactly. And we will look at those in specific. Yes, great. Agatha says it's one of the books you guys did monthly. Yes. So Bruce Lipton did this work like in the 80s and 90s. Dr. Hammer discovered this at the late 70s. And of course, he got a lot of pushback because it was just so different from how we see things. But nowadays, we understand that. Now Bruce did this Petri dish experimentation where he took some cells that were lactose intolerant and he poured milk on them. What do you think occurred? What he actually saw was that those cells that he calls them mother cells, many of them reproduce daughter cells. And even though those mother cells died because they could not absorb any nutrients because there was milk, the daughter cells, which took minutes to produce, were lactose tolerant. So our ability to adapt is seconds. And that's what our body is doing all the time. So what Dr. Hammer demonstrated is that the body doesn't break down, but develops an adaptation when there's a shock.
Jackie is asking, are you saying that all of us getting MS is a way our body adapted to deal with whatever stressors we had?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And that's what we're going to be looking at next week. And we're going to be looking at why 10 years later, why 20 years later, why 2 years later, you're still getting them, why the body keeps getting retriggered. Today, I wanted to look at it in general because the last time I taught this, I went straight into symptoms of MS and everybody in the class was getting like, oh, getting triggered. So today we're going to like start with your colds and stuff just so we can get the concepts. And I'm going to use a lot of examples of nature. And then next week, when you guys have chewed this a little bit, we're going to look at symptoms of MS because it's almost like too close and too personal, to be able to absorb this. Okay. Yes, it's not Yeah, it could be the response to a maladaptation. It's usually a response to, and we'll look at this today, the body is saying, my person can't cope with what's happening right now. And we actually have experience in this. So I need to step in. I need to step in, or else this is going to be a disaster. That's what your body is doing. It's stepping in for you. It doesn't feel like it, but as we talk today, you'll see how we know this. Okay. So let's look at him first. Okay. Let's look at what happened to him. When you get testicular cancer, what is literally happening is you have more cells in the testicles. When you have more cells in your testicles, you have an increase in testosterone. What does an increase in testosterone in a male produce? Think about not just men, but also, wolves. What would having more testosterone do for a man? They're like,
Having more kids.
yes, he's going to be more male, more dominant, and he's going to find his mate and he's going to procreate. So his body, when he lost his child, his body revved up in preparation to replace his child. This happens in nature. His wife had the same. Remember, she had ovarian cancer. So let me give you some examples in nature because sometimes it's easier. A long time ago, I'm here in Santa Cruz, California, and I was dating a professor at the university who specialized, he was a biologist, and he specialized in fish. And I remember once I asked him, I was like, because he loved hypnosis, he loved people, and I was like, why do you study fish? Why don't you study people? And he's like, people are too complicated. They never do what you tell them to. You tell them to take this thing, they always take that and 20 other things. No, people, I don't like people. I prefer fish. And so one of his dilemmas that I remember he shared with me is he couldn't understand when there was like this major storm and and maybe the river or the lake, there was so much debris or pollution that it killed most of the fish, that the following 2 years the fish that survived had 3 to 4 times more baby fish than usual. Why do you think that is now, knowing what you're starting to know? What's the adaptation trying to do? Right? It's trying to get the homeostasis. And then he was like, I don't know why, like the third year, it's like normal again. They just produce, the normal amount of things. He's like, is it like, yes, they repopulate. And he was like, does it like they know what number is correct, And I was like, it's probably something subconscious, right? Nature knows. It knows the amount of fish that are needed in that lake.
I
The
have a
stress,
question.
yes.
So if we are adapting when we are diagnosed with MS, why do the doctors always say that our body is attacking itself?
Because that's the theory of conventional medicine when it's not looking at biology.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the biology side.
This is biology. Yep. When you look at nature and then come to the body, instead of look at cadavers and then define what's happening in the body, you see it very differently.
Right. Okay. Okay, good.
Someone asked, can the stressor happen years before the symptoms show up?
Yes.
That can make you susceptible. That can already tell your body, uh-oh. It's like having PTSD, right? It's like if you've already had an experience of fear of heights, right? Later, the next experience, you're going to have more fear or can have more fear. The body can do the same. But that event that happened years ago is not the cause, it's the primer. It's the one that tells your body, it didn't go well last time, so maybe I need to step in this time. Okay, that's what we call the programming event versus the triggering event. The triggering is the one that causes it, and it causes it like the Petri dish. The program starts, and we'll get into the symptoms don't usually happen at the start of the program of the adaptation. They actually happen when the adaptation is over, but let's get into that. So another example in nature, again, because it's sometimes easier to take a step back. In 2020, while everyone was dealing with COVID, we had here in the Santa Cruz Mountains, we had a major fire coming through. It burned, I think it was like 1,200 houses. This is a forest area, mountains. And so it burned a lot of the forest, right? We had right next to our house, 2 houses burnt. The following 2 years after the fire, we had so many acorns on the ground that when you were walking around, you were walking on acorns. That's how many were just like, it was like a carpet of acorns. Why do you think that is? Kristen, yes.
More trees.
They had to replace the trees. There was so much got burnt down. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but that's what the trees do. For the next 2 years, they were just spewing out acorns, and we had truckloads of acorns. And then it stopped. It was just normal again, just the falling occasionally. But it was insane that year, the 2 years after the fire. So, any disease, any physical symptom is the result of the body or a tree or a fish adapting to a conflict shock in order for you to meet a core biological need, right? In this case, the trees and the fish were procreation, but we have a lot of core needs, like needing to look good sometimes is a core need, or we think it is, right? So if you can put the PowerPoint back on, we're going to look at what is a conflict shock, because again, we're looking at everything, in general, and then we can get into more details. I think the one before this one, I hope. Okay, the one after this one. Is it? Yes, okay. What is a conflict shock? As I said before, it's not the 2 years, because you are dealing with those 2 years of stress. You are like, your work is shit and you're having to work 14 hours a day and you're doing what you can. It's that specific and acute moment, a second in time. There's a clear before and a clear after, like, the with the river. Monday, the 12th of 2021, there was this major storm, right? It's a clear moment in time. With my clients, it's like, oh yeah, May 15th, when I went to that Easter party and my cousin said, Dada to me, I was in shock, right? I didn't realize that could happen. The PowerPoint just appeared. Oh, there it is. Okay. So it needs to be one, very acute and dramatic, something that just occurs. There's like a clear before and a clear after, right? It's like knowledge or information or, oh my gosh, it's like one of my clients, she was having, of course, also a year from hell. And she reached out to her mom thinking, okay, my mom's gonna, she was like, I don't think I can I don't think I can finish this year. I don't think I can finish this program. And instead of her mom saying, oh, don't worry, honey, her mom said, how could you? How could you quit when you're almost done? And it was like a total shock, right? It was like, it was the last straw. That's the conflict shock. And it's very specific. All of a sudden, from that moment on, she didn't feel like she had someone on her side. She felt like, I'm dealing with this stressful year and my person's not here with me anymore. She's not supporting what's going on for me. The second is it's unexpected, right? She's not, she doesn't think that's going to happen. Unanticipated, catches you on the wrong foot. What? And the third, and this one's, it feels like you're alone. I mean, think about, there was actually this great study made in psychoneuroimmunology. There was this group of kids and I think it was two instructors who went to do this cave adventure thing. And they got stuck in the cave, right? I don't know if it's like 12 kids and two instructors. The instructor and the two kids that looked around and tried to find an exit. They were doing something, they were collaborating, they were working with each other, they were trying to find an exit. Didn't get any PTSD or any issue. The kids that just stood hunkering down with the instructor that was panicking, they all developed major PTSD and physical issues, right? Because each of those kids felt alone. They felt there was nothing they could do, right? They didn't share with each other. They didn't feel camaraderie, which is why, having these communities and sharing what's going on for you is so important. So usually the shock that we're looking for is not flattering at all. Okay. It's the thing that happened after all that stress that's super embarrassing or shameful, or you don't want anybody else to realize that you had no idea what that was, when everybody else probably knows, right? That's that thing. That's the thing that catches you off guard and it feels isolating. All right. Now, we could take this one off for a moment. So we've looked at two things. We need a shock for the symptom to begin. And as someone said, what about that thing that happened years ago? That will usually be the programming. What already gets your body into, these things don't usually turn out well, right? Because it's not going to do a physical change just because. It's going to do a physical change because it has experience that it didn't go well. Second is this conflict shock isn't your 2 years worth of something. It's that thing that occurs that catches you off guard at that time. All right. Yeah, one of my clients, not symptoms of MS, he had other symptoms in his body. His wife, asked for a divorce. Okay, he didn't 100% expect it, but they weren't doing well. But what caught him off guard is he thought she was keeping the house. And it had never occurred to him that he might lose his house, ever. That was the shocker, right? That piece that you just didn't occur to you. And that was what later created all sorts of stomach problems. And we'll look at stomach problems in a moment, okay? Because it's about your territory. Okay, so which part of the body, the organ, or tissue adapts? The one that can most effectively address the shock, right? If I get something in my eye, what occurs in the eye? What occurs? If I get like a big, I don't know, piece of sand in my eye, what occurs?
You
The
can't see something anymore.
Yeah. And so what does your body do? If you get like a nice, I don't know, gravel in your eyeball, what does your eyeball do? Tears. Exactly. Your eyes tear up. It's not your tongue that tears up, right? It's not your big toe that tears up. It's the specific organ most efficient in dealing with the unexpected. When you need more strength because you're not strong enough, the muscles will be the ones adapting. Or if it's a lot of strength you need, the bones will adapt, right? If you need more dexterity, for example, a piano player will be like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I can't do this. The area that will adapt will be his fingers. If he keeps getting triggered every time he plays the piano, he will have such strong joints that he will be diagnosed with arthritis. And those strong joints will now begin to be a problem. But he keeps telling his body, my fingers aren't strong enough because I'm not able to play that, that tune, etc. When it comes to, I need protection, I feel something is attacking me, people who believe that the sun is, oh my gosh, we have to wear everything because the sun attacks you. The skin that will protect you from attacks is your underskin, your dermis. Or if you feel attacked in the stomach, actually the skin that protects the organs in your stomach, or protects the organs of your heart, or protects your lungs. right? And so it's the particular organ that is best adapted to, can most efficiently deal with the need, right? So this totally turns around the assumption that disease is a breakdown of the body or there's an erroneous growth happening, okay? Again, it's easier to understand nature and fish and trees than sometimes to understand our bodies. But I wanted to give you some examples that you guys know, okay? A mountain climber, professional mountain climber, will sleep in hyperbolic chambers with actually less oxygen. Why will they do that? Brad,
Get
I
their
think
body
you,
ready. Sorry.
yes, yeah. Get their body ready to train. They're training their body to use less oxygen. Because if they can train their body to use less oxygen, then they can climb higher and higher mountains without equipment. If that mountain climber went to the doctor and got blood test, that doctor would go crazy. Oh my God, your white blood cells, there's an issue here, right? He's doing this on purpose, though. What about a bodybuilder, right? When a bodybuilder goes to the gym the first day, can he lift 100 pounds? I can't even lift, 10. I remember I went with a friend to her gym. I'm not a physical. I prefer to use my brain. My body does just moves me from point A to point B. But she convinced me to go to her gym. Oh, it's fun. We're doing it with music. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll go with you. And so I went. So everyone's there, like, doing these like body pump, it was called, they're doing this thing with 15 pounds or something. And so I picked up a 5 pounder. And the teacher was like, pick up that 15. I'm like, and she's pick it up. And so I picked it up and I'm like, yeah, you know, but what happens if I keep going to that class? I didn't. But what happens if I actually kept going to that class?
You will get used to the weight.
Yes. Why? Because my muscles are getting the message I need to be stronger. And so they will get stronger. That is an adaptation. What about my mom is from Spain, so we have this love for sun. And so the minute, every day at lunch, I go out there and I'm looking, I'm out there eating my sandwich. What's my body doing as I go out there every day, especially now in the summer? My body's going to adapt and get darker, right? It's the same layer we just talked about. It's the dermis, the layer under the skin. The dermis rather than epidermis is going to create more pigmentation in order for me to get darker. That's an adaptation too. The body's like, whoa, that's a lot more sun than we're used to. We need to make a change in order to adapt to this new environment. So what happens when the mountain climber takes a sabbatical? Or when the weightlifter breaks his ankle? Or when October comes around here? What happens to our adaptations?
Body goes back to normal.
Unfortunately, for some of us, yes, right? I cannot keep a tan to save my life because once there's no extra sun, my body's like, this is done. And so it starts breaking it down, and then I start peeling, and I'm like, oh man, right? Or the weightlifter doesn't keep going, Arnold Schwarzenegger doesn't keep going to the gym. Those muscles aren't going to look that attractive anymore, right? And the mountain climber is going to notice he can't get up those same mountains. He's got to keep that tension high enough to keep the body at that extra adaptation, which is not homeostasis, not our regular, because we're pushing the body a little more to create more muscle. So why I'm saying this is that these programs have two phases. And we'll explain this piece and then we'll take a little break, take a little 7-minute break because there's a lot going on here, and then we'll review where we've gone to. But what I'm saying in here is that these adaptations that Dr. Hammer discovers has two phases. It's the phase of the body making the adaptation. And once the issue is resolved, which is our goal, completely resolved, the body's going to break down that adaptation. Let me give you guys an example, totally day to day. You decide to have a birthday party in your house. Do you have to adapt the house in any way? Oh yeah, you have to do everything. You have to get more plates, you have to clear out, you have to probably move stuff because there's going to be more people. You adapt your house to that acute event, to stressful sometimes, but to that special event because you're not prepared for it. The same thing the body does. Now, after the birthday, do you just go to bed and you're done, and the next day you're like, huh, perfect? What happens after the birthday?
Clean up.
Clean up. Which one's funner, prepping or cleanup? Which one's more discomfort, let's call it?
Discomfort is prepping, probably. Clean up is not as fun, but it's easy on your mind.
It's easy on your mind. Exactly. It's the same thing. So here, when you're in adaptation, your mind is just as, oh my God, this issue is going on in my life. I need to do it. You can't sleep. You wake up at 4 a.m. And at the same time, you're just adapting, right? Creating the space. And then afterwards, it's like, ah, it's done. So mentally, you're actually in a really great space, which is a great way to know, am I adapting and stressed or am I, healing? Is your mind is now like, oh, you're no longer thinking about the birthday. But the cleanup can be very uncomfortable. It's very messy. The same thing happens in our bodies. We have the adaptation, which many times we don't even notice it. Only mentally because we wake up at 4 in the morning or we're cold or we just like obsessively thinking. But once the adaptation is over, right? Once the exam is over, we've been obsessing about the exam and like, our nostrils are opening up so we can sniff more like a dog, sniff what's going on with this exam and why would this teacher do this the day before the holiday? Oh my God, and then once you get on the holiday, your body breaks down that opening of it's actually opening your nostrils so you can catch the scent. Now it has to break all that down and you've got a cold or you've got sinus issues and da da da. So the breaking down of the adaptation is actually where the majority of your symptoms occur. And that's what throws everybody off, including myself when I first started. Because constantly we think, there's a new symptom. Oh my God, I'm getting worse. And it's like, oh my gosh, no, that's a great symptom. And that's what we're going to look at next week. It's like, I love that symptom. There are symptoms of MS that you guys need to celebrate. Farida was saying that she celebrates at night that she has spasms because she knows now that they're, it's like, I had a good day because that means I resolved my day. I finished my stuck conflict and you'll learn what that is. Okay. So second or third, let's say, concept is we have two phases of a disease, of a program. First phase, oftentimes we don't feel it. The second phase, when the body is in healing and breaking down that adaptation, is when we have inflammation, we're tired, we have a fever, there's discomfort, and that's usually when we get diagnosed. This we see a lot of times. It's very obvious when someone breaks a leg, for example, right? You break the leg, you get it put in the cast, now you put your leg up, now your body has to repair it. That's when there's inflammation. That's when the leg gets hot. That's when you're tired. That's the body, right, healing. All right, so let's do this. Let's take a 7-minute break. I don't know why I like the word 7. So at 38 after, let's come back. We'll review what we've just